Last week, over 100 Utah homeowners went to a public comment hearing about homelessness to yell, "Not in my backyard!" Now, wait, what are they referring to? Well, there is a warming center that is set to come to their community. Now, what's a warming center? Well, basically, it's a place where the unhoused can come in and warm themselves up when it gets too cold outside. Maybe grab something to eat, so they don't starve or freeze to death in the cold temperatures. So it's actually one of the good laws passed in Utah in 2023. So they recently passed a law requiring counties to provide something called cold blue warming centers that will open up when the temperatures are forecast to get below 18 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. So that's cold. Okay, that's cold. 18 degrees. You can freeze to death in the elements. Okay, worse if you have certain health conditions. And so these centers will literally save people's lives. Okay, now the legislation calls on mayors and a county commissioner to choose and set up the warming centers in meetings that are not open to the public. No, now wait a minute. You might think, hold on. I get the warming centers, but why are the hearings not open to the public? That doesn't make any sense. Until you realize this is why. Some of the responses here to the shelter itself would be one woman said, "We don't want answers. We don't want the shelter." Oh. Another woman stood up and yelled, "The people that are coming to these homeless shelters do not want help." That's funny because they're going to the shelter, which means they actually do want help. She then said, "They're drug addicts. They do horrific things. I have small children. This is not why we elected you." What did you elect them to do? To murder homeless people? Is that what you wanted? And by the way, nice way to throw in, "Oh, well, think about the children." Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Not only that, but when Commissioner Lorene Kamalu actually started to read a positive email sent in by another Kaysville resident who supported this, a man interrupted and then went after the commissioner for daring to read an email in support, saying, quote, "One that you chose to listen to rather than 100 people in front of you." Wow. Okay. Look, I get it, though. Closed meetings suck. Sure. Even Kaysville City Mayor Tamara Tran was not happy with this process. But based on the reactions from this community on this whole idea, I get why. Because it turns out that a lot of people in this particular community hate homeless people. Okay? There is so much NIMBYism when it comes to homeless shelters or anything to help people who are unhoused. I mean, what you heard in this meeting, unfortunately, seems to be a prevailing opinion. They're all druggers. They're all criminals. They don't actually want help, despite the fact that they are actually coming to these places that are offering help. But hey, what? Yeah, it's insane. It boggles my mind. Like these people, what they're thinking about homeless people because they've never met a homeless person. Okay? And when you look at the stats, homeless people generally tend to be people that have fallen on hard times, which is quite obvious. Veterans. I mean, almost 13% of the adult population experiencing homelessness are people who had served previously. Okay? In fact, in January of 2023, at any night, there was around 35,574 veterans experiencing homelessness. 20,076 were sheltered, meaning they wanted help. 15,507 were unsheltered. And by the way, there's a reason why. Okay. For one, they don't allow pets in shelters. Okay. So there's a lot of homeless veterans that tend to have their service animals, right? And there's disabilities, of course, involved as well. But you can't have your animal in the shelter. Okay. You can't have a lot of your belongings in these shelters as well. There's very, very strict rules. And if you leave your stuff out, it ain't going to be there in the morning, okay, to stay in the shelter. So there's several of the reasons, I should say, that 15,507 homeless veterans decided to brave the elements and not go into these shelters. Most veterans, though, 98% experienced homelessness as individuals. Of those individuals, 30% had experienced chronic patterns of homelessness. So here's the other thing to go back against the, I don't want help. 70% actually, have, again, experienced homelessness, but then got back on their feet. So understand that, while 30%, again, have chronic homelessness, okay? And that's involves more serious issues, more serious help that is required to actually get them into homes and to have them stay into homes. 87.8% were men. So that tracks because there is an issue with men experiencing higher rates of suicidal ideation, higher rates of mental illness that is untreated, and of course, higher rates of stress and all that stuff, loneliness, social isolation, etc. 11.2% of these veterans that are homeless were women. And again, I was just talking about veterans themselves, right? But there are also plenty of people who are not veterans that are homeless. And for them, I mean, there's many different causes of homelessness. In fact, there's the biggest one happens to be lack of affordable housing. Okay. There's also the fact that a lot of people can't afford to get the health care and stay in their homes. And so some of that these healthcare issues make it so that you can only afford to pay for the healthcare, but you can't afford, the healthcare that keeps you alive, but you can't afford anything else. And so you end up losing your home. You get cancer, you can't work, you can't pay the bills, you end up losing your house, you lose your car, you lose everything. Okay, burn through your savings. That's a big reason right there. And then you have people fleeing domestic violence that end up homeless. So you have a lot of these different factors. So the truth in this country is the majority of people are a paycheck or a diagnosis away from losing everything. You have almost half of people in this country that can't afford a $400 emergency. And so people are a lot closer to being homeless than they would like to admit. How so many people don't understand this and don't have empathy towards people who are unhoused, I think it's due a lot to media and politicians that have very successfully demonized the unhoused population. I mean, how many Fox News segments have there been with people like Tucker Carlson, who was a former Fox News host, or Jesse Waters, going around, with a video camera, or sending someone with a video camera to San Francisco or Los Angeles, and pointing out, oh, look, they're defecating on the street. Oh, that's disgusting. Look at what they've let happen to these liberal cities. Well, where do you expect people who have no homes and no bathroom access to go? The bathroom at? I mean, this is your brain on NIMBY, okay? Anywhere but here. Okay? Now, that said, thankfully, in Utah, they're like, well, it's not your decision. It's the state's decision. We've already decided, all right? We're going to put up these centers. In fact, Tran said, Kaysville City cannot say no because we don't own the property. We don't control it. We know that what we've heard that loud and clear, but what we need to do, what we do need is a solution. Okay, so a solution to this homelessness issue. Now, Commissioner Bob Stevenson said plans will continue to go forward for the warming center, and they're putting it inside of a former emissions testing center. There were some other, of course, places as well that didn't really get any pushback. So just in this area, and so look, it's the NIMBYism. It's a certain kinds of people that have no empathy towards other people. Okay, now look. Overall, though, I think what the state is doing is good. I'd rather people not freeze to death. Now, if your view is no, they should freeze to death because they did something wrong and that's why they're homeless, they're bad people, as that woman had said, then I don't think you're a good person. Simple as that. Now, obviously, it would be much better to prevent homelessness in the first place. I mean, that's my position all along, but that would involve some pretty major changes to our society and our economic system that are not going to happen anytime soon. So, unfortunately, that is a social ill that we have created through our society that we're going to have to continue to deal with. And at least these centers are a step in the right direction, keeping people alive. And that should be at least the immediate goal while we continue to work on the large structural goal, which I still believe we should be able to provide everyone with a home if they need it. But, that would be the simple thing to do. But unfortunately, the simple things to do are stopped by one thing, and that, of course, is greed. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.